Hey everybody, how are you doing today? I hope everybody is doing good. Hope you had a real good Thanksgiving too. I know I did. Enjoyed myself, good food and family and stuff like that, fellowship. So it was nice. And these holidays, they go by just like that. They fly quickly. I mean, we spend all this time getting ready for these holidays, only for them to slip away in the blink of an eye. And that's the way Thanksgiving did. Now, you watch, Christmas is going to do the same thing. People are now getting ready for Christmas, but it'll be in and out of here before you know it. And immediately after that will be New Year, 2024. My goodness, how time flies. Well, anyway, I certainly thank you so much for tuning in today. And I tell you, I am so grateful to have you. And I would like to welcome all of you to another episode of TJ's Topics. And of course, I'm TJ. And I tell you, I am so glad to have this opportunity to come into your presence once again. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to be able to come into your presence on any given occasion. Now, today, you know, we're like I said, we're coming back from Thanksgiving. We had a good time and everything, but I don't care what the season is. I don't care what the holiday is, what the occasion is. I always find myself thinking about something. And I'm sure that you do as well. And so, what I'm thinking about today is the ignorance of a lot of people. And that is my topic, taking pride in ignorance. And some of you may be wondering, well, how in the world did he come up with a topic like that? Well, I'm going to tell you, when you've been around certain types of people for as long as I have, you're bound to see a lot of ignorance take place. You're bound to hear a lot of ignorance, see a lot of ignorance, and experience a lot of ignorance. And I tell you, I have honestly seen a plenty of it, heard a plenty of it, and experienced a plenty of it. So, you know, living in the time that we live in now, I can't help but to wonder why so many people seem to be proud of the fact that they don't know as much as they claim to know. You know, they try to portray themselves as very smart and highly intelligent and act like they sure enough got it going on, but they really don't. I mean, they don't know as much as they think they do. They they put on a good front and talk a good game, but nah. You can tell those who are really smart from those who are not. And if you walk around here every day, you'll be able to discern the difference between the two. Well, today I would like to help you, kind of give you a little boost in having the ability to discern the difference between those two categories of people. The true smart ones versus the real ignorant ones. Because I tell you, it's a lot of folk out here who seem to feel good about being ignorant. And what is ignorance? It's being ignorant means to not know and to not understand. You haven't been made aware of a thing. That's what being ignorant means. But some people, for whatever reason, tend to spend the vast majority of their lifetime walking around on this earth in a state of ignorance. And I don't know why that is. It beats all I've ever seen. But some people feel good about that. Why that is, I'll never know. So I have a question for you. Why are some people proud of their ignorance? And I'm sure you know those who are, because I know several who are as well. There are several reasons why some people could be proud of their ignorance. Some people might feel that they are above others due to their lack of knowledge in certain areas. And for that reason, they tend to feel that it makes them more independent or self-reliant. On the other hand, there are those who view their ignorance as a sign of strength and therefore feel as if it makes them more resilient or resourceful. In addition, certain people may believe that knowledge isn't all that important. But now, get this. We were told starting in early childhood that knowledge is power. Now, why would anyone not want to go after knowledge? Because, if knowledge is power and we need it in order to know how to function in this world, why wouldn't anybody want to gain knowledge in whatever area there is to gain it? If you ask me, I would say that some of those people are rather stupid. And that's just my opinion. But anyway, and not only that, but they think that it doesn't matter if they don't know anything. They feel like having knowledge is not required for them to be successful or to be able to do anything. Now, there may have been a time when people didn't have to have a lot of education. Like, for example, in my grandparents' lifetime, a lot of them didn't have the opportunity to finish high school, graduate and go on to college or whatever. Most of them had to drop out of school and go to work. They picked cotton, and stuff like that. And then like the slaves, they definitely didn't have an opportunity to be educated. But here we are now, well into the 21st century. And with all of the resources we have, all of the internet and everything, all these resources, all these books and all this information that's available to us. And some people refuse to tap into it. And why is that? I don't know. But they're doing themselves a great disservice for being that way. In reality, it is important to remember that everyone is entitled to their own opinions and beliefs, and that it is not our job to judge anyone based on what they do or do not know. So, when it comes to knowledge or the lack thereof, sometimes we may feel bad for those who choose to neglect gaining knowledge and educating themselves. But when you think about it, we really can't feel bad for them because they have ample opportunity to education, just like anyone else. They can be educated if they really wanted to, but unfortunately, a lot of them don't want to. They take pride in their ignorance. And if they're taking pride in their ignorance, then what is it for us to do? What can you do with somebody like that? if they're proud of being ignorant, if they're proud of not knowing anything, you can't do anything. I mean, you certainly don't want to waste your time on them. You can't, what the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, you can lead a person to knowledge, but you can't make them think. Now, here are some of the characteristics of an ignorant person. And I found these online in doing my research. Found a good website called ideapod.com, and I was able to tap into this. See, this is something that we couldn't do, like 30 years ago. We didn't have the means to look up information online. We had to get in our cars and go to the library. We had to look through the card catalog, and y'all remember those card catalogs, them big old wooden, look like a dresser almost. Pull the little drawers out and thumb through all them little index cards. And you know what? Sometimes in a way, I miss that, because to me, those index cards, those card catalogs, it symbolized the simplicity of life during those days. Life was so simple. Things weren't nearly as complicated as they are now. And sometimes you sort of miss some of those things. They really mean something to you. Now, I know this new generation doesn't know anything about card catalog. They don't know anything about encyclopedias. We use encyclopedias and stuff. So this new generation pretty much has it made. I mean, they got everything at their disposal that we didn't have. So they should consider themselves very fortunate. But here are the characteristics of an ignorant person. Number one, they're egotistical. And you'll find that a lot in an ignorant person. They have an inflated view of themselves, and their opinion of themselves is astronomical. I mean, it's just big and grand. They think that they're all that and a bag of Doritos or a can of Pringles or Frito-Lay or whatever you like. And number two, they're arrogant. They have an exaggerated sense of their own importance or their abilities. That's one of the characteristics of an ignorant person. And the further I go along, you may begin to develop ideas of certain individuals in your mind as to who is truly ignorant, whether it's a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, a former classmate, somebody you go to church with or have been to church with in the past. And I'm gonna tell you this before I continue. There is a plethora of ignorance in the church. Probably more so in the black church than anything. But there is an abundance of ignorance in the church and in religion across the board. But Christianity seems to be the leading component of ignorance. I mean, it's so much that you see and hear come out of Christians' mouths that makes you wonder, what the hell? What the hell? Number three, there's a sense of blindness when it comes to ignorant people. Not physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. They're blind. They don't have any real understanding of anything. They think they do, and it's ridiculous. It's hard to deal with people like that. They think they know everything, and you can't tell them anything. They won't listen. It's crazy. They give little thought to the future. This is number 4. People who are ignorant, they don't have any concern about the future. All they're thinking about is right now, at this present moment. They seek out instant gratification. They're only concerned about what they can gain right now rather than what the future holds. And they seldom have a backup plan. They think they said don't count your chickens before they hatch, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, if you're ignorant, you tend to do those things, failing to realize that sometimes your plans may not always work out. And if they don't, then, well, you need something to kind of tote you by until you can get back on your feet or do better or come up with something else. But that's not what ignorant people think about, though, unfortunately. Number 5, they're quick to offer advice to others, but rarely do they apply that same advice to themselves. They can tell everybody else how to run their life and their affairs, how to handle their business. Meanwhile, their life is in shambles. Their affairs are not in order, and their business is all over town, sometimes across the state line. Now, what kind of sense does that make? Number 6, ignorant people tend to use big words in order to make a point. They try to sound intelligent by using the largest words and inserting the most complex terms into every sentence and speech. And I'm going to give you an example of 2 types of people who tend to do that. And they are politicians and preachers. Now, considering politicians, you may know of one politician at least who fits into the category of all of this. All of us know one politician who is outstandingly ignorant and is not ashamed of it either. In fact, I think they are very proud. I think they're very proud to be ignorant. And something on the inside of me feels as if they know it and they're not afraid to show it. They feel like, they love to be in the spotlight. I'm talking about this ignorant politician who's on my mind right now. And y'all may know exactly who I'm talking about. I don't even have to call their name, but you know. Because hardly a day goes by when people are not talking about this particular politician. And we know a number of ignorant preachers out here. I mean, yeah, they quote scripture and stuff like that, and not just preachers, but a lot of church folk in general, a lot of Christians. They're quick to quote Bible verses and stuff, but when it comes to how they're living and what they're doing and things, no, they want to point the finger at somebody else. But just like they're pointing the finger at someone else, look how many fingers are pointing back at them. And they don't see that. Ignorance. That's what it is. Now, number 7. They always brag about their smartness. And again, we know people who do that. We know of a politician who does that. Number 8, they act like they know everything. And people who are like that, they're hard to deal with. You cannot have a decent conversation with a person who thinks they know it all. It's hard to deal with folk like that. I find it very difficult myself. And I find it to be a waste of time even getting involved with people like that. I'd rather just keep my distance from them I mean, I feel that I would be better off. All of us would be better off if we stayed away from those kind of people. Just let them run their mouth, let them talk and everything, and and just let them be who they are, because you can't change them. If they're not willing to change themselves, there's nothing that any of us can do to make them change. So, number 9, they are conversation narcissists. Basically, they like to come in and take over people's conversations. Now, they don't even have a clue as to what the subject matter is, but if they do receive some type of inclination of what you're talking about, then they're going to insert themselves into that conversation. They want to be a part of the discussion. And they'll start to make it all about themselves. They want, because they want to be the center of attention. There's a lot of folk like that. Matter of fact, there are a lot of people on social media who are like that. And I've had a few run-ins with a number of those type of people. I mean, they come in and they wreak havoc in different groups and different settings and stuff. I mean, it's awful the way they do. And they expect everyone to like them and to accept them, to be pleased with them. How in the world can you be pleased with somebody who wants to just totally take control of everything all the time? That's not right, and it's unfair. But some people don't have a clue as to how to treat others the way they would like to be treated themselves. And then they're quick to find fault in everybody else, failing to see the faults in themselves, because they got plenty of them. Number 10, they are anything but humble. They have high opinions of themselves. They have created a false persona, and they even begin to accept their own lies. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And yet they have low self-esteem. We know a lot of people who have low self-esteem out here. They're not able to take the jokes that people make about them, but yet they can make all the jokes and all the snide remarks and comments about others. But like blues legend Bobby Rush said, a man can give it, but he sure can't take it. There's a lot of people out here like that. Man. And they fail to see the faults and shortcomings in themselves. And I think I just mentioned that. There's a lot of folk like that. They can point the finger at you, but if somebody starts pointing at them, showing them where they're wrong, they want to play the blame game. They want to blame everybody else for their problems, for their mishaps, and their circumstances and bad situations. They never take responsibility for their actions. There is no sense of accountability on their part. But they can run around and look at everybody else and what they're doing, pointing the finger at everybody else and what they're doing. They need to start looking at themselves. Number 11, they're inconsistent. You can't rely on them. You can't trust them. They're never there for you because they don't care about you. They ain't studying you. And so why waste your time on them? That's just where it is. Number 12, they don't express their emotions freely. A lot of times they tend to keep their feelings bottled up. They walk around, proud and thinking that they can handle it all by themselves. But that's not how things operate in this world. Everybody has to have a little help sometimes. And, somebody to talk to occasionally. It's good. Number 13, they're selfish. A lot of people we know who are like that. Number 14, they're judgmental and manipulative. Yeah, those are the worst kind of people to deal with. They're always casting judgment on others. But they've made mistakes in their past too. And I'm sure they're probably still making some mistakes. As long as you live, you're going to make mistakes. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of position or title or status that you hold in life. You're not exempt from making mistakes. Number 15, they're poor listeners. They like to run their mouth and tell everybody else stuff. But when somebody tries to tell them something, it's like it goes in one ear and out the other. They don't listen good at all. They don't listen very well. Number 16, they suffer from a false sense of confidence. I think we all know people who fit into that category as well. And number 17, they lack courtesy. It's like they're ill-mannered. They don't have any manners, any kind of respect or kindness. They just whatever, It's pitiful. It really is. It feels good to be smart. So it comes as no surprise that some people will pretend to be who they aren't. For starters, smart people hardly brag, always listen to others, are eager for feedback, and are excellent learners. Ignorant people are exactly the opposite. Arrogant, poor listeners, and never learners. So if you pay close attention to any of those indicators that I just gave, those signs, then you will definitely be able to discern the difference between someone who is truly smart and those who are just flat out ignorant. And we know a bunch of them out here like that too. And I'm sure that over this past holiday we've had, this Thanksgiving weekend, you probably had an encounter or two with some ignorant folks. You probably have. Because I'd be honest with you, I think I have. And as we draw closer to Christmas and then New Year, it's going to be some more of them. But the key is to know how to discern who they are and do all we can to keep our distance. So that concludes my discussion today on taking pride in ignorance. And I tell you what, ignorance is something that no one should ever want to take pride in, but sadly, there are those who do. And so we just have to let them be. That's about all we can do. So tell me, do you know anybody who's ignorant? Perhaps you're close to someone who's ignorant. You may know them. As long as it's not you, then you're fine. So on that note, I would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today to another episode of TJ's Topics. I really do appreciate it. And I definitely look forward to being with you again on the next time when I will have something else of interest to discuss. And I'm sure there'll probably be a lot of interesting things to talk about as we get closer to Christmas and we wrap up the year 2023, which has definitely been an interesting year in more ways than one. This is Taryn Jerome Harris reminding you that every round goes higher, and higher. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.